All right, cap and trade. I don't support cap and trade. Cap and trade is a system that was devised under President Bush 1 to deal with acid rain. How many people remember acid rain? Okay. Now, acid rain was a real problem. Certain pollutants went up in the air and they came back and they basically killed trees. We identified those pollutants. Remember Freon? Okay, the Montreal protocols. They had technology in place that could control these pollutants from going up in the air through the private sector, giving credits to people, trading system. It worked. The problem with carbon pollution is that there is no system in place to capture carbon. Now, what is carbon? Carbon is the air we breathe, but when you heat it up and you run it through filters, it comes out as CO2 emissions in a more dangerous form. Now, if you want to believe that carbon's good for you, go, suck up a car exhaust for a while. Go to Los Angeles, where they got millions of cars on the road you can't see in front of you. Carbon is just one of many pollutants. In 2007, the Supreme Court ruled that the Environmental Protection Agency could regulate CO2 emissions under the Clean Air Act. The Bush administration challenged the EPA's ability to regulate carbon, and it was about the polar bear. They lost. Don't ever take on the polar bear. The Supreme Court could revisit that decision, but if they don't revisit it, the EPA has the power, beginning in January, to regulate CO2. You heard it here first. If the EPA has the power to regulate carbon, it could bring our economy to its knees. Why? Because you're going to put regulation on business that will not exist in China. The EPA cannot give tax advantages and tax credits to adjust your fuel systems. They can't do what Congress can do. They can only punish. We can reward. So in January, the EPA is about to embark on regulating carbon for the first time in our history. I've got a dilemma. If I do nothing, and the EPA begins to regulate, we're going to take a vote in about 2 weeks to take away the authority of the EPA to regulate carbon. I'm going to vote for it. And I'm going to say Congress should regulate carbon, not the EPA. Now, if you're 30 and under, global warming to that generation is a reality. Most everybody here thinks it's a hoax, right? The truth is, I don't know. The truth is that the planet's heating up, but I don't have a clue if it's because of our cars, our utility plants. I do believe in clean air. And fossil fuels have a downside. They're owned by some of the most dangerous people in the world, and all things being equal, I don't think they're good for us. If you think fossil fuels are good for you, go in the Gulf and swim around. You'll have the whole beach to yourself. Nobody would let their kids to get in a bunch of oil in the water, would you? What makes you think burning it and breathing it is better for you? But having said that, we're dependent on fossil fuels for a generation or two. So why would we take our economy and put it at risk vis-a-vis China and India? What I propose is that we stop cap and trade as we know it. We take away from the EPA the ability to regulate carbon, and we do a deal. I believe in energy independence, and everybody in here does. I want you to ask you to raise your hands. We need to build more nuclear power plants, right? That's where the jobs are going to come from. We haven't built one in 30 years, but we're about to build 6. Good. And the only reason we're going to build 6 is because now we have a loan guarantee program available to the nuclear industry where they can get government backing for money that is lent to them by the private sector. Because why would you lend money to an organization that's going to get sued every time they try to build a plant? So we changed the rules and plants are being built. I wanted to expand the loan guarantee program to $54 billion, which would allow us to build 16 plants with government backing, then terminate the program and allow the private sector to take over. I want to drill offshore more aggressively. Even I now understand that the opportunity to do that has been limited and hurt, because I want to know what happened in the well. We use 21 million barrels of oil a day. 9 million comes from domestic exploration. If we put a moratorium on drilling, you're going to get $4 a gallon gas before the end of the year. So find out what happened, make it safer, but expand it, because we need to find it here rather than buy it over there. $400 billion left the country last year to buy overseas oil. We're more dependent on foreign oil today than we were before 9/11. That's a national security disgrace. So if you're willing to allow me to expand offshore drilling, and the state that agrees to it gives 37.5% of any fine back to their state, if you're willing to allow more nuclear power development and preempt the EPA from regulating carbon, I'm willing to let carbon be controlled through legislation in a business-friendly manner, where you start with utilities in a fashion that will not spike rate increases, with technology that exists, go slower, get the game started, because the future of job creation in America, I believe, is from energy independence. Your children and grandchildren are going to have a hard time competing with China in certain areas. But when it comes to energy independence, building nuclear power plants, building the grids that we need to get power to where people live, taking cars and designing them in a way where they run on something other than traditional gasoline. All of these things combined, wind and solar, are going to create great economic opportunity. If we do nothing in this country, China's going to eat our lunch. We're beginning to dominate the wind-solar market. We need to get a vision for energy in America. We need to put a price on carbon that's business-friendly, and we need to make sure that when that coal-fired plant time is up, that you replace it with a clean coal plant, a nuclear plant, wind or solar, all of the above, so that we can get our country on marching toward the path of energy